Well, thank you for staying with us. We get into our big stories now, and I am in very good company even before we tell you what we're going to be doing. Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Looking sharp.
Thank you.
As always.
As always, I'm trying to learn from you.
My pressure. Top pressure.
I'm learning from you.
Well, how are you this morning?
I am doing great. How are you?
We did. Kojo Poku today, I told him I was doing very well. He said I should keep it that way. Usually I go like under the circumstances today. So I'm maintaining it like that. But we have quite an interesting bit. We've put out there, we've been interacting with people, and some of the comments.
Yeah, some of the comments that have been coming through. And Benjamin, it's just interesting that just around this time, and today's a Thursday, how about a throwback? Yesterday
So yesterday was the 7th
of December. And once you hear the 7th of December in Ghana, it sends a certain signal.
One thing comes to mind.
One thing comes to mind, which is elections. And we were looking back to 2 years ago from yesterday. It was really heated. I remember very well what the climate was like at that time. I mean, there was tension in the system. Will the Akufo-Addo government be the first to exit after one term? Were we going to see a change in the political dynamics when it came to elections? Well, it didn't happen. But people were looking back to that day and what influenced their decision, and whether or not if they had the same opportunity today, whether they will make the same choices. And so today we've decided to assess, obviously with the help of Ghanaians, assess the first 2 years of the second term of President Akufo-Addo, and find out from you what your ratings of his performance will be.
Yeah, and I guess we would both have our ratings, but would leave it to the public, our audience, those who watch us, our viewers. So at least we have our own opinions, which maybe as we go along we'll share with you. But we also have been speaking to some residents in Kumasi. Here is what they think about this administration's leadership 2 years after the first term. So second term, 2 years on. What is their take?
In 2020, what has been the impact story so far? How do Ghanaians rate the Akufo-Addo led administration after 730 days in office?
I rate this government by say 3/10 or 30/100. They are not performing. Previously, they were performing. When he came first, Ghanaians, we had hope that he was coming to do things as we expected. But unfortunately for us, things are not going as we were expecting this administration. And I count those who are not helping the current regime, this administration, to be the economic team.
I am unhappy about my vote outcome. I would certainly not vote again.
I'll give them 4.5 out of 10 because there's a certain things now that they are trying to organize themselves, put measures in place so that maybe for the next 2 years, then things will go better for us, especially the fuel prices.
I am very unhappy. 2 years ago, I had given birth, but I took my baby along to go and vote. But now, times are hard. If things don't change, I am not voting again. After the difficulty in the last 2 years, times are really hard. The first year was okay, but this year in particular has been very difficult.
With the current ratings so far, Ghanaians are not happy with the Akufo-Addo led administration after 2 years. Nana Bwachidankwa reporting for Joy News.
So those are the views of some Ghanaians from the Ashanti region capital, Kumasi. I don't know what your views are, but later on the show, we will open the phone lines for you to share them with us. On Facebook as well, we've been sampling your thoughts. But Benjamin, it's interesting, the lady who talks about how she had just given birth,
Yeah.
took her child, and went to vote. They all did not indicate who they voted for, but clearly based
you
on...
can surmise.
You can, yes, you definitely can deduce from their commentary who they voted for. And I'm worried particularly about those who say that we won't vote again, because that's another problem of the democracy when choices are being made and people are indifferent.
People become so inured to the process that
Exactly.
they think, this is not really going to change anything for me. It's problematic.
And then we leave it to a few people to make the decisions for us.
Yeah.
And then when there are repercussions, we come complaining again. But let's get onto Facebook now and take your comments on what we've been asking, basically, 2 years on after Ghanaians went to the polls to re-elect the Akufo-Addo-led administration. A lot has happened. What do you want to see going forward? And it reminds me of that gentleman who called in yesterday to say, we know what our problems are, but what is the solution? What do we want to see going forward? And King Noah says, in Ghana, the only time you're remembered for your good deeds is when you are no more. And he's saying, read that again. Well, Evans Amankra says, God forgive me for voting for him. And Ebenezer says, well, by the end of 2024, the duopoly, it should have ruled 16 years. That's a phase that's both used for themselves and hanger-ons. I wish to see the new phase begin in 2025, where we've amended the constitution, which we can properly put the country on development footing. I don't care who wins. And you know why? If the rules change, the game will change.
Let me tell you something. For me, and maybe I speak for some people, I really don't care which party is in power. If you deliver what the people want, if you deliver what will make my life better me in terms of my human development, give me roads, give me the necessary facilities. And basically, look, I often say, and friends often tell me that the skills you have, linguistically and other things, you would thrive so much better in other countries. Why can't we do that right here? You get it? That is what people are clamoring for. And if you give us that here, if you gave me that, I really don't care who is in power. I would vote for that person. The problem is we vote for these people. They create, these impressions that they can. They build castles in the air. And castles in the air, no one can inhabit.
But he's raising a very important point about the Constitution there. And later in the show, we'll bring you details of a statement released by OccupyGhana, focusing on the debt exchange program. And they mentioned things like that, the Article 71 issues and all that. And so for this gentleman, when the rules change, the game will change. It will compel people to do certain things that we want moving forward. Dramani says, all right, we'll skip that. And Yerio Fidelis Debunk says, moving forward, this is what I want to see, 20 ministers of state.
And it's possible, if you follow PM Express yesterday, and we all know it, constitutionally, we can have 19 ministers when it comes to, how many do we have even when it comes to the regions?
275 presidential staffers, 1 per constituency, no ex gratia, they should be paid pensions. And in fact, let me reference the OccupyGhana statement again. They actually say the president must pay taxes. And then Philip says, beginning next year, he should cancel the ex gratia for Article 71 orders who enjoy the best of life during their time in office.
Well, we'll shortly be joined by some others who will be sharing their thoughts with us. We have someone from the PNC joining the conversation.
Mr. Wengobit. Yes, Mr. Wengobit is also with the Exporters and Importers Association of Ghana. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Quickly, your ratings of the first 2 years of President Akufo-Addo's second term.
Well, good morning to you, and good morning to your viewers. I strongly believe, and let me say, maybe, I know maybe you might come back to us for Christmas, but as God has brought us to this far, we have to thank God. It's not easy. So let me say, Merry Christmas in advance to you and your team, and then your listeners. and hope that God will take us to the end of them as well and to just see 2023. I must say, 2 years down the lane, since President took over again for 2021, it was 2021, yes, 2021, has been a very turbulent year. There has been so many challenges, crisis in terms of our currency, crisis in terms of our economy, crisis in terms of organized labor front, and the country has really gone through some kind of trauma, and I must say it has not been rosy as it was in 2020, 2017, all the way to 2020 that we went to the polls to re-elect him again. And it's all due to, I must say, I will point it directly that all boils down to the president himself for failing to listen to Ghanaians. When Ghanaians call on him to say, look, you cannot have the same team throughout 2017 to 2020. And at the end of the election, you still want to have the same team to end your 4 years. What for? To say they are the best people within your party. There are no other people, even when Ghanaians are saying, look, we need change. When even everybody, all indicators, all from academia, from the political, from a civil servant, from the ordinary Ghanaians, everybody is saying, look, there is a need for the driver to change the mates, or for the driver to change the passengers. Passenger that he's having in the bus is not helping him. Yet the president says that no, he sees as his daily occupation, and he monitors and he knows what they are doing, delivering, and he thinks that they are the best. For me, I strongly believe that wasn't the best response to have come from the gentleman of the land. And I used to see himself as an example. He was in government during President Akufo era. He was responsible from Attorney General Department to Minister of Foreign Affairs. Not only him, many of his colleagues. Some were even asked to go, some were exited, and they brought in farm. So what is wrong? President Mills' government, we saw it. President Mahama government, we saw it. President Rawlings' government, we saw it. It's only his government that he wants to have ministers having the longest term in government, which have performed poorly and put all of us to this struggle. This recent budget or this recent cabinet retreat that he announces that there was going to be a haircut. The president came back and said, no, there was not going to be a haircut. You go to our banks and everybody goes for your investment and you are seeing it in reality. You come back to you're going to do debt restructuring or whatever. I mean, so I will tell you, it has not been rosy, and the government knows that. When you go to the business community, which I lead, they will tell you how much losses they have made in terms of revenue. I'm not talking revenue, in terms of the identity sales or monthly sales, month by month. That has even led some people pulling out of the economy, and that's not good. That's not good. So I think the government 2 years hasn't been well. If you give me 1 to 5, I would say 3.
So you say on
a
scale
5?
of 1 to 5, you would say 3.
Yes.
Okay. So that's about what? So 1 to 5, where 1 is 20 points, that would be 60 over 100 that you're giving this administration. Right?
Even I'm being lenient to the government to say 60%.
Well, 3 out of 5 is 60%.
It has not crossed 60. I have been too lenient to the government. I'm telling you, that's a part of the matter.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't
So in reality,
in reality, is worse than that.
Not very. It will be probably I'll give them 2.5.
Right. So the question we've put on our Facebook page is for people to share with us what they think we can do differently. We know the state of our economy. We know the decisions that are being made, the steps that are being taken to put us back on a right course. Some have called this a bitter pill to swallow, but they say we have no alternative. What do you want to see going forward?
We cannot say we have no alternative. The government must downsize the government itself. Its appointees must be reduced. That's the fact. I think I heard some President saying that there's a need for time to be taken of the council of members. Let's go. You understand. You have technical advisors, you have senior advisors to the president. What is council of state? members. So there are certain things that the president, and they are all expended. They are all drawing from the consolidated fund. And so, if you ask me, this decision that the government has taken just to put unnecessary burden on the ordinary citizenry, while your government is still bloated, while your government, your appointees are still driving the VE that they said you were going to. So have you seen them pack V8? Have you seen them pack V8? Are people still not driving V8? Have we seen that 50% cut that the government said they were going to cut from government appointees? Where is that money? How much has it realized? What are they using it for? You get it. They said they were going to cut down coupon and that thing. Are they sure? If you put to the minister, or if the ministers come to official duty, their English still not on. Are they buying? I want to say, look, from today, look at the issues on hand. If you're a minister, if you're a government appointee, you are receiving a salary, you are receiving so much. Buy fuel by yourself. Government transfer fuel allowance to ministers or appointees. Do you see that? We are downsizing the appointees at the presidency. Have they downsized it? So the government cannot say I'm failing it when he's not failing. That cannot be palpable true. I think I don't know the adjective that I will use this morning.
All right, I have a brief question for you, Samson. So
yes,
based on your assessment, 2.5 out of 5 is 50%, right? And you have given your assessment when it comes to your industry and business in general. We put out a question there that 2 years on, how are people reflecting on voting for this administration? I'm going to push you to the wall. If we were to go to the polls today, would you vote to retain this administration?
Completely, these people have to vote.
Pardon me?
What have they done that to them to take capital again?
Samson, we're losing you. We can't hear you.
I'm saying that if you go to post today, I'm not quite sure that we will have to retain this government again.
And I ask that from an interesting perspective because I know, yes, you're a member of the PNC and that some of you are trying to put yourselves together, the CPP, PNC and all of that, to come together. But it still remains that, like most Ghanaians will say, you are not that force to reckon with. So I don't know whether you wouldn't want to.
Oh, I must say that there is a challenge in my party. Top hierarchy are not in good terms. That has led us to where we are. When we're supposed to rather be united and rather make the party very attractive, so that many people, including your good self, join the party. We kept on having skirmishes. And I always say that with living in the glass house, you are not supposed to stone it. If you stone a stone, it's going to break the glasses. So, but I know definitely with EC wanting my party to patch up their differences, or else EC will not partake any exercise with us, not engage us, should be enough. For the party hierarchy, we cannot put our selfish interest above the party. I said it somewhere. Without the PNC, maybe some of us wouldn't have gone to where we are today. It is the same PNC that people think that is not attractive. That some of us kept on holding it, and it has brought us where we are. In 2008, I'm not sure you know me, but 2008, I was contesting PNC as a parliamentary candidate in Ashama. And that has put the confidence level to me. And that has made me be a public speaker. And so many of them, Bernard Mona and others are all, my brother Atiku used to be there and no more with, say he's no more with us again. I will listen, what is called, Emmanuel Wilson and others that you know them, Isaac, and many of them, Greta Clark, Chairman Bala, Madam Janet Nabla, many of them that we can hear of them, their voices today. Through PS, so it's a party that you cannot get. If they used to talk about third party in this country, it's PNC, and we cannot just list the name like that. So for me, I know that yes, if they will be fully voted today and MP will not be in government, then which party? Should it be the PNC? I would say yes. But you would tell me that, but are you guys ready for power? Because you are PNC yourself, we are fighting among ourselves. But I know one day the devil will be a liar. And PNC will be reunited. That's what I look forward to see.
Right. Finally, from me, on the bit of the debt exchange program, we've heard from many organizations and associations. Does the Importers and Exporters Association have a position on this matter, and do you mind sharing with us?
About concerning electricity?
No, the debt exchange program, our current economic situation, and the program that government is hoping to use to get us out of the woods.
Well, the minister did this or made this public statement without engaging stakeholders. I'm sure you heard other groups are all anger. I think TUC and others, GMA, Ghana Medical Association, and others are all, and other interested groups, civil societies. And of course, the Importers and Exporters Association cannot overrule out. But the point is, why would we want to do such a public policy or take such a public decision without engaging stakeholders? You don't announce policy before you come to engage stakeholders. In this country, that is what, since my 7 or 8 years in 2014, I don't know, is it 8 years or so, or is it almost 8 years or so, in advocacy, I must say that the challenges or the difficulties that I encounter in all institutions is when they will call you and you come and say, look, we have the law. We have this law and we want to implement and we are engaging you. But in other jurisdictions, the best practice is engage your stakeholders, take their advice, then you formulate it into a policy. At implementation level, you will see just you reduce the resistance, isn't it? But in this country, you just sleep and wake up, and an agency or a sector ministries will say, this is our policy, and we want to implement it. Come for engagement. If you go there and say, no, you should have done A, B, C, D, they think that you are antagonist government. That has been one of the challenges that I have since I came to advocacy in 2014 till date, my dear sister. And so I would tell you that who will be happy? Are you happy yourself? And you think importers should be happy? Are you happy? You and my brother are you happy? Are you? My sister, are you there?
Are you awaiting a response from us, Mr.
Yes, of course, we are having a very
well, we've had our own concerns, which we've espoused here time without number.
Exactly. So everybody is having a concern.
Yeah.
This is not a healthy. Ghanaians were not consulted. This is just one person decision. And you see, that is one of the reasons why the over 80 MPs in Parliament said they didn't like Ken Akufo-Addo. He should go. You see, he does not respect anybody, even including the office of the vice president. We are getting information that he does things without even the vice president. And you heard Akan Japan saying it, that how can he be a vice president and the finance minister is bullying him? It's not coming from Aringo's mouth. We saw what the MP, when the MPs take
well, some of these comments we have to take with a bit of a...
The minister ran to go and pay district common fund. Are you aware? He went to pay MP's common fund. Are you aware? Where was the money? Are you there?
We're here. We're listening to you, sir.
Yes. The finance minister, when the people take a coup against him in Parliament, that they walk away from his budget. And they tell the issue, the reason. They break this man. We were having district assemblies and the MPs claimed that their common fund hasn't come. They break the man when he had to go and pay. So those one were the one were you with the even we're owing at 2021. They were still owing some district common fund. But he was able to go and clear the money. You see, this is the minister that says that we still have the money. But suddenly he ended up going to pay money. So I just yesterday, I think SIC, I don't know if you read business news yesterday, SIC is saying that transit cargo has dropped by 23 or 20 something %. I don't know if the SIC is state insurance company, which you know that every time the transit cargo goes, the insurance, you must take insurance cover against damages and loss or accident. You understand? So they use that policy was given to SIC solely. So all the transit cargo has dropped, and that's what they were accounting their revenue for the year. When they've been having policy, the other seeds grow up. And rather, dwindling. What is the reason? Cargo has diverted to Africa and Togo. Africa have put up in one of the new modern port today. And their cost of doing business is very easy as compared to our ports. So that's you see that even the state company is also complaining. So, my brother, if you ask me, I will tell you that the business community are not also enthused with whatever policy redirecting, policy reshaping, policy I don't even know the term that's used on it, restructuring or whatever. I can say this policy is dead on arrival. Already Ghanaians have made up their mind. Look, there's panic withdrawals all over. And people are accounting to how much I invest, how much I win, how much they are telling me that I'm getting year to market date or market year date or whatever. You will see your actual investment. They will say you cannot, if you want to surrender today, you will not get so and so amount. These are real. So are you telling me how would the president come to life to be? Or the whole Ghana? How would the president say A today, tomorrow come might say B? Then they break it C. How?
Mr. Wingobit, right, we're immensely grateful for your thoughts, which you've shared with us this morning.
But you didn't answer me your question. The question I also asked.
Which one was that?
I asked you, how are you also feeling? Are you people also happy with?
We're feeling the same pinch. We're feeling the same pinch, Mr. Wingobit, that every other Ghanaian is feeling. We're not exempt. We're feeling the same pinch.
You didn't share your experience with me. You were asking me to share my.
Mr. Wingobit, we ask the questions here. That's our job, and you give us the answers. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for
Samson Asaki Wingobit is a member of the PNC and executive secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association. Benjamin, so the big question, which would like to take your response to later on the show, is what to do moving forward. And talking about that, in a statement released by OccupyGhana yesterday, they talk about the current situation we are in, the debt exchange program, and they offer 10 recommendations to government. So we'll delve into those recommendations shortly. But before that, in setting the tone for those recommendations, they made a very interesting observation that I would like to read out. So they say there is simply no way to understate the terrible consequences that this state of affairs has caused and will cause to Ghanaians. That is why we believe, we Occupy Ghana here, that any offer to the citizens who are already hit with the multiple effects of inflation and cedi depression to essentially bail the government out of its self-afflicted disaster must come with an acceptance of failures and a firm commitment to do better. So let me bring you details, more details of that statement by Occupy Ghana. Well, so they have two broad comments on the domestic debt restructuring. The first is that government has no power under the law and the constitution to unilaterally impose fresh terms on portfolio investors' negotiations, and the mutual consent of all parties will be required. Now, two, they say the millions of Ghanaians whose funds, pensions or otherwise, have been invested by institutional fund managers in government securities will be the ultimate losers in this new offer. The fund managers will simply pass the cuts on to their clients and customers. And this is in response to the concerns about, if you say that individual bondholders will not be affected, how many people can directly...
How many are individuals who are even bondholders? That's the whole point.
Exactly. So let's move on to the recommendations that they offer. The first one is that government should reduce the number of appointees by at least 50%. And they say this can be achieved by, Benjamin, again, consolidating several ministries and slashing the number of political appointees, such as all deputies and the like, and entrusting public servant technocrats with the responsibility of supporting substantive heads. They also believe this will send a powerful message in these tough and painful times that government is serious about its commitment. Number two, Benjamin, which is a very interesting one, about the president paying taxes. They're saying that, well, they admit that the actual savings of this might not be much, but it is hugely significant and symbolic. The third recommendation from Occupy Ghana is that government should rationalize the so-called Article 71 benefits, eradicate the multiple claims of ex gratia, and the false scheme by which successive governments deliberately delayed the setting up of the emoluments committee till the end of their terms. They actually say that this government should set up the committee now. It is a demand.
And that delay is in fact intentional. And then you would see, Article 71 office holders walking away with all kinds of gargantuan, packages. Why don't they do those things now rather than wait for later? And that is a big problem, something that we do indeed have to address as a people.
Well, let's see what the fourth recommendation is. Intensify and institutionalize GRA's invigilation activities. The legal sanctions for underreporting and tax evasion must be drastically applied. The fifth point is to explain the source of funding of the proposed Financial Stability Fund, FSF. And Benjamin, that is another big one, because on the front page of the Business Finder today, we see it's the headline story. Financial sector gets 15 billion cedis for the FSF. So the question is, where is the money coming from? So we'll quickly wrap up with the sixth one. They also talk about pursuing the Auditor General's disallowances and surcharge. They talk about ending galamsey, which is the 8th. The 9th is slash all non-critical government expenditure. They talk about the National Cathedral, suspension of all fees and allowances paid to persons appointed by the government to serve on various boards. And the last one is to rationalize the President's flagship programs. This includes a free SHS scheme. Every Ghanaian who can pay fees should pay. Limits the scheme to only those who can prove that they are not capable of paying fees. And in conclusion, they say a government that is pleading with Ghanaians to bail it out of a self-afflicted disaster must bear fruits worthy of repentance. They're also asking that all tax exemptions, especially those granted to incomes and gains from portfolio investments, should be revised. Well, on this point, let's bring in Bernard Mona, who is also with the PNC and has also been quite vocal about his thoughts on this government and its performance. So, Mr. Mona, we just highlighted the Occupy Ghana's statement to government on the debt restructuring program. Mr. Mona is also with Arise Ghana, and they end by saying that government should admit that this is self-afflicted and must bear the fruits worthy of repentance. Have you seen enough of that? Hello, Mr. Mona.
And to your many viewers, I had to do this interview. First, it's commendable that Occupy Ghana has taken an initiative to tell the government on what they need to do in order to bring about a reprieve to the people of Ghana. It is obvious that President Akufo-Addo, surrounded by ministers who have failed, yet he described the failure of these ministers as excellent performance, have run down the economy. In running down the economy, they have not accepted blame for running down the economy. And I think that that is where Occupy Ghana is coming from, indicating that they must show repentance. You need to accept responsibility for running us a ditch. When you accept responsibility, apologize to the people for misleading us. Then you can invite the people to join in finding a solution to the problems that you have created. Where government, in attacking anybody that says that the government is not doing well, then you cannot somersault and say that the same people that you are attacking and repelling should be the same people to help you to find solutions to the problems that were avoidable, because everything that has happened to us today, President Akufo-Addo was informed that taking those steps will lead us into this graveyard. He did not listen. When he came and Ken Ofori-Atta started borrowing, going into the bond markets, every one of us, from academia to civil society officials to the media and to political parties, we want on the dire consequences of running an economy based on yearly administration bonds. They did not listen. President Akufo-Addo went further to say his ministers were performing outstandingly. And that made us to feel very sad, because when your ministers have failed and your measure is that they have performed outstandingly, it means that you yourself, you are a bundle of failure. See, as we stand now, the same Minister for Finance, who prior to going to IMF was shouting at the rooftop that no matter what anybody does, we will not go to the IMF, we are proud people, we are a shining star of Africa. After President Akufo-Addo compelled the going of IMF, the same president says that this man, who does not believe in the efficacy of an IMF solution, should be the one to go and lead IMF negotiations. The IMF have branch. They have their offices here. They have captured everything finance minister have said, including running them down. How do you think that the same institution will be willing to work with somebody who has run them down?
Right.
Aside that, see, nothing has worked. You have a minister for agri who has become Bordier, selling Bordier at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. This is a marked departure of running policies that will lead to food surpluses that will eventually lead to the running down of prices. If you have failed to ensure food supplies and you are engaged in selling perishables at the Ministry of Agri, carrying plantain and yam, which are, by the way, perishable commodities, at this particular time of harvest, will tell you that, look, your Minister for Agri has lost the script. And it is important that President Akufo-Addo should look at this. These are the reasons for which we think that the president is not taking the people of Ghana seriously. At the time that businesses are collapsing, including yours, the president who opposed the value-added tax when he was in opposition and led people to go and lose their lives, today has the luxury of increasing the rate at which VAT is taxed.
Well, some interesting thoughts. Bernard, please hold for us, Mr. Mona. He, of course, is with Arise Ghana. Let's also bring in Martin Kpebu, also an advocate on some of these national matters, and he's a lawyer as well. Mr. Kpebu, a very good morning to you, sir. Hello, Mr. Kpebu.
Yes, hello.
Benjamin here. A very good morning to you.
Yes, morning, Mr. Akakpo. Yes, sir.
Great. So just reflecting on, we're contemplating 2 years of the Akufo-Addo administration in the second term. And we've been, asking people what their thinking is on where the country is headed. But I'd like to find out from you, based on what Occupy Ghana has put out in recent times in terms of their assessment of the situation. Two things. They say Ghana has become broke under this administration, and that's because of this administration's own failures. In fact, in recent times, Dr. John Kuma, a deputy minister of finance, admitted saying that this administration may have overborrowed. There's also a second point that Occupy Ghana makes in respect of the bondholders, making the point that these haircuts, you can talk about individuals. How many individuals are there? Most of them are with institutions, and these are going to affect pensions and other things. There are those who say that it will not necessarily affect the pensioners and all of that. It will only affect the institutions who carry the coupons. What is your assessment on this and generally, as far as this administration is concerned, these last 2 years?
Well, this administration has witnessed a monumental failure in terms of running the economy. Let's go back to basics. Candidate Akufo-Addo in 2016 came on the promise of transforming our Gettysburg economy, meaning that we're exporting too many raw materials, and so he would have the raw materials processed here, add value here, so that we could earn a lot more. And then also number 2, we will do a lot more import substitution industry, meaning that we will then import less, because once we even import toothpaste, dog chains, and all those, we're going to do a lot of import substitution industry so that we will not import that much, so that our currency will be strengthened. In that regard, let's look at the 4 major items. 1, you're looking at rice. 2, oil. 3, poultry and fish, you know. So he said we're going to do a lot of import substitution industry to stop these and many more. And with that, the currency was going to be strengthened. Then, so first 4 years, he couldn't achieve it. And in election 2020, he repeated it by saying that he will take steps to do all this so that he will boost the economy. That's a promise in 2020. So 2 years after 2020, since he has driven us into a deep crater, I mean, it's obvious. It goes without saying. And in law, we say rep is extra. He has failed abysmally. Failed, you know? And so it just tells you that, that's why I keep repeating that call that it's just about time he left. Yeah, Akufo-Addo just has to resign. There is no other option today. He's run out of ideas. He himself has checked out, and all he's doing is hanging on to slogans, which he doesn't intend to implement. Because you look at the budget that's just been read, I don't see anything in the budget that would help to this will significantly change the Gettysburg economy as he has promised. That's been the same mantra for 6 years. And going into the 7th year, the same mantra, sloganeering. He's not able to do anything that can impact the economy properly. You remember Mohammed's time, he said, look, any idiot can build roads. Yes, is that not what Muhammad said? Yes, any idiot, okay, can build roads. So if you build roads, you haven't done anything. No, you haven't. You have to look, apart from roads, what can you invest in that can change the economy? What can you invest in that can change the economy? And he rightly identified those products: rice, oil, chicken, fish. I say those ones, the cooking oil. Of course, we'll come to petrol. Petroleum is another major one, but we'll leave that out for now. You see, we are looking at the food items, even food alone. So 65 years after independence, we still can't see that. And yet we are talking plenty. So it just tells you that having had the economy for 6 years and he's not be able to do that, he's not going to be able to do that going into the future. Come to the cut that we are clamoring for. Look, when he came, when we say the cut, the VA, all right, the high number of ministers, in 2017, when he came, one of the first promises he made was that now to the ministry, you see V8, even 2022. Yeah, very luxurious. He bought V8 and bought V8 and bought V8 and made nonsense of everything he promised. You see, so it's just a recycling of his broken promises. Right. That makes it very nauseating. I think, you see.
So let me ask you then, at least, even as we look at the problems, we must proffer solutions. As part of those solutions, and I'll go back to what Occupy Ghana has put out in recent times, they have a 10-point plan. I'll walk you through 5 of them, and I guess you could address the other 5 maybe with Bernice. What then would be your reaction to these solutions? Do you think they are part of the solutions that we ought to, in the immediate term or in the short term, be looking at? First proposal, reduce the number of government appointees by at least 50%. It's been proven, per the Constitution, the dictates and all that we could have 19 ministers outside of those other appointees by the president. That's the first. The second one, let the president pay income taxes too. And that's just to, it's for the optics, so that the president too would feel the pinch of the ordinary Ghanaian. Third, rationalize the so-called Article 71 benefits, and they point to the fact that Ghana needs to end the 3-decade-old grand conspiracy among the political class that milks Ghana under the false argument that Article 71 authorizes so-called ex gratia payments. 4, revise all tax exemptions, especially those granted to incomes and gains from portfolio investments. And 5, intensify and institutionalize GRA's invigilation activities. What do you make of these first 5 proposals, from Article 71 to the president paying income tax, to the reduction of government appointees, to rationalizing Article 71 and all that? What is your take?
Mr. Akakpo, they are on point. I'll go with all of them. And indeed, these are not new. These are debates that we've had. These proposals have been there for decades. Actually, they are not new. Even before this government took power, some of them were there. This reduction of ministers. But as far as I can remember, when Akufo was campaigning to come into office, that was one of the major things to do, over-bloated government. But when he checked the archives, when he came in, he later said, oh, he didn't know it was that difficult. So I think he kept his ministers around 8 or 2. So there's always been the clamor by Ghanaians that the governments are over-bloated. Okay? Yes. So this is about time. Now that we've been led into a ditch, I don't think we can afford to delay that any further. So this is the time to cut down to about 50, 60, right? Yes, so I'll go with that. Then you talk about the president paying income tax. That's also on. It's only that it doesn't go far enough. Look, we give the president too much. Yes, he feeds on too much tax from the public pay. We pay for everything. We have to cut down. We have to live within the salary we give in. So the things we buy, the beddings, the food, everything, we have to cut that. When you come into office as president, also learn to live within your salary. So the paying income tax doesn't go far enough. We have to cut down on the things we buy for the president. Okay, everything in his house we pay for. We have to cut that, right? In addition, we have to go into Article 57 when it comes to the not immediately now. But the constitutional review is something that is fast, coming up as one of the major things that any new government has to do. So Article 57 Clause 5, the thing about immunity of the president, okay, we'll remove it. So that when a president is in office and he's taking bad decisions, when he leaves office and we think they are criminal in nature, the president can be prosecuted. This current situation where we say anything done by the president in his official capacity is immune. It's not helping us. You see now, the president has succeeded in enriching his family. He has become very rich through allowing Akufo-Addo to use data banks in the bond pitches, right, and resale to the public, the primary dealership and bond market specialists. They see that the president has had a very useful tool. Today, as we speak, Ghana is in trouble. We are debt-ridden. And he and Akufo-Addo have made their family very rich, super rich. They are very comfortable today. And the rest of us are national artists. Why shouldn't he look into it? When he leaves office, that President Akufo-Addo will be prosecuted for this rape of the public purse through data banks. Why shouldn't Akufo-Addo be prosecuted? So that is one area we should be looking at. So the other ones you've mentioned, they are also all the same. They are all on. We need to cut down. We need to cut down. We have an over-bloated government. Look, go to the presidency. They are 995 at the office of the president. Some are presidential staffers, etc. 995. That's 1,000. We should cut down. We should cut down. We don't have an option. Okay? Yes. So that is the way to go, Mr. Akakpo.
Right. Lawyer Akakpo, Bernice here. We received a suggestion from one of our followers on Facebook. He believes that there's just so much solution being preferred, but he thinks the greatest way to solve our problem is to focus on the Constitution. He believes when the rules change, the game will change. Should we begin to, even though it's a long-term process, getting our Constitution reformed and all, but do you agree with him? Should we focus our energies there instead?
Bernice, you've answered it. That yes, well, maybe not long term, medium term, because it's 2 years at most, and then that if Akufo-Addo doesn't leave by the end of this month, 2 years at most, we will have the constitutional review started in earnest. So maybe medium term and not long term. So we cannot channel all our energies into race right now. We have to be eclectic. So we channel some of the energy into constitutional review and channel something into the immediate one. Today, by close of day, Akufo-Addo can resign, Bawumia can go, Oforiatta can go. If only Ghanaians want to do the right thing, we need to come out, ratchet up the noise. The call for them to go. We have to ratchet it up. Maybe, Bernice, you guys shouldn't also close by, is it maybe in the next 1 hour or 2? No, you should have a full-day program. Go out. Get more vox pop. Get more citizens to talk, right? Give them the microphone. I'm sure if we were to do that for 2-3 days, Akufo-Addo will flee. When he sees the numbers that every citizen is angry, he will have no option but to go. I think we are pampering him too much. Yes, we are pampering him too much. We can't take such abysmal performance and he still gets sloganeering and we are just, we talk in our corners, we are angry in our corners, but we can't channel it publicly. You see? So you guys have to find an innovative way. As I said, there are a lot of people angry in the streets there. Increase the airtime that you give those people. Let them talk all day. I'm sure in 3 days' time, Akufo-Addo will step down. Now, if it's not stepping down, the other thing is like what it's been proposed by OccupyGhana, and which I've said they are not new. We've all contributed to this over decades. These proposals have been in the system. Some have been dating back to as soon as the Constitution was set. So some are told that 25 to 30 years old. Some of the suggestions, like I told you that before said, we couldn't reduce the number, right, beyond a certain level because he didn't know it was that difficult. But as I've said, now that Akufo-Addo and Bawumia have led us into this stage, this is the time to take the bull by the horns. We can't afford to delay the tax any further. We can't. So constitutional review, yes, we are pursuing it, but also in the most immediate one, that is to say, this trio, Bawumia, Akufo-Addo, Oforiatta, must go.
Right.
Nana, must go.
Let's touch on a few other recommendations by OccupyGhana. The issue of pursuing the Auditor General's disallowances and surcharges, we've discussed that a lot with you quite recently, we did. But let's now focus on the proposed Ghana Financial Stability Fund. They're saying that they want the source explained. Now, as of now, we've just been told that about 15 billion cedis in the fund has been supported by development partners. We've received that much support from development partners. We don't know who these partners are. And this is just to help address liquidity issues that may arise from the debt exchange. Are you concerned that we may hear other issues of possible corruption and other related issues relating to this particular debt exchange program, I beg your pardon, and the support we are receiving if we don't have transparency there?
Oh, definitely, Benny. As long as you don't get transparency, then there will be some more reasons. I mean, I'm not the one saying it. That's always been the suggestion, right? That's why it's commonly said that sunshine is the best disinfectant, right? Yes. So we have to get more transparency. And this morning, one of your colleagues, Raymond Akpa, mentioned it on the Super Money show. We need more transparency in that area. You need transparency. Yes, it's not negotiable. So very soon they have to lay bare all the details of who brought what and what are the terms. Yes. And even if it's from donor partners, so do we know, are they gifts? If some are loans, have they been to Parliament, etc.? So we need more information, right? And don't forget the COVID funds. You see currently the Auditor General, is that what you even refer to? It's auditing the COVID funds because of the issues that were raised, because we couldn't account for the funds properly. Yeah, so that should tell you that where there is no transparency, surely a very conducive atmosphere is created for the public officers to be able to help themselves to the funds. So by all means, we have to pursue transparency to the hill.
So for you, beyond the resignation of the president, his vice, and the finance minister, do you think that we are on the right trajectory with our debt exchange program and the possibility that we will receive the 3 billion that we are requesting from the IMF?
Not yet. We are not quite to see the proposal, the debt exchange. Yes, provided the government sits down to negotiate well with the pension fund. So in principle, it's one of the things we can do, except that the manner in which the proposals were announced obviously didn't go down well with the pension funds and the stakeholders. You've had at least 9, let's give out the minority, about 8 stakeholder institutions, NAD, the Health Workers Union, etc. There are about 8 of them. If you add the minority in parliament, 9 all have come out to speak vigorously, vociferously against the manner in which the proposals were brought up. So obviously, Akufo-Addo goofed once again. You see, they said the thing is voluntary, and yet they made it appear like, that is take it or leave it. So now they'll have to go to the negotiating table and negotiate something with this pension fund, right? Yes. So in principle, it's something that can be done, but we will give them some time to negotiate, and then when we see the final product, we'll see if it's viable or not.
Right. We appreciate your time here this morning. Mr. Akakpo is a lawyer, a very vocal one as such. We've seen him in recent times working with the Rise Ghana, leading demonstrations, and his call has been consistent. He's asking the president to resign, and his vice as well. So, Benjamin, we still have Mr. Mona on the line. He's also with Arise Ghana. So, Mr. Mona, let me just take your quick thoughts on how we can move forward. I think that the facts have been established. The difficulties are glaring. What do we do next?
Well, like I've already indicated, it takes first a true apology to the people of Ghana that we have messed up. We need your support and cooperation in order to overcome this. 2, particularly when they have been requesting for the alternative, particularly from the opposition. You describe the opposition, particularly its leader, as incompetent. So it beats the imagination that you are seeking alternative solution from something you describe as incompetent. And that is where the problem is. The third is to look at the proposal by the former Secretary General of the Christian Council, Reverend O.
Hello, Mr. Mona. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, we lost you, but we can hear you now. Please proceed.
So Reverend Opuni called that we should rally the nation in a fashion like the Senchi consensus that was done, so that every other Ghanaian, farmer, fisherman, petty trader, those who can contribute ideas can sit on a round table at a venue and put up proposals for the solutions that will liberate us of this place. But for the Minister for Finance, whose policies from day one has sunk us, to continue to be the same storehouse that will prefer solutions to the problems, means that we aren't coming out of this problem anytime soon. In 2023, there is a job freeze. In 2023, we are going to have increase in taxes. In 2023, the poor who were exempted from electronic transfers are now going to pay every penny on their little income. In 2023, there is going to be food shortages. And an angry man, a hungry man is an angry man. And when you are hungry, you know that democracy is not an option for you. So we are running deeply into crisis. If in the Republic of Germany, the military is unhappy and they are attempting to take over government, we should be the ones that should be terrified about this situation and to say that, look, the arrogance and pomposity of government and its communications must cease from now. We need sober minds to talk to the people because we are already frightened by the levels of vulgarity that is existing in this government. And then you have people who will come and tell you that if you are saying that President Akufo-Addo has failed, he's not doing well, you are either born of a village person or you are a wizard or a witch. Such utterances rather infuriates. Then when you have the president himself saying that those of us who are calling for a tinkering of his ministers and appointees, that we are either looking for jobs or we are against his government, such thinking does not elicit national cohesion and cooperation towards overcoming the challenges that we face. When you have a president or the vice president, when people are crying that we are hungry, then you go and tell the people in the Volta region that you brought about digital address system, you expect that the people should tolerate you and not hoot at you. So it is the kind of political communication that government is embarking on that is probably worsening the situation for all of us. And finally, in economics, speculation plays an important role as to whether an economy can be made or unmade. In this instance, the speculation is that Ken Ofori-Atta is a monumental disaster. The longer Ken Ofori-Atta continue to live or to stay in office, then the longer or the prolonged status of the economic crisis that we are going to have. Akufo-Addo must at a time sacrifice his brother, his financier, for the betterment of our nation and throw away family and friendship. That is the only way we can overcome the sordid economic situation we find ourselves today.
But I mean, we've been given reasons. I mean, when I say we've heard in the news, we've heard what the party thinks, what the president thinks about the removal of the finance minister from office. We haven't received an emphatic yes or no answer, at least. What the president said to the MPP MPs who were also making the demand was, let's allow him to present the budget, finish the IMF negotiations, then we can continue the conversation about whether he stays in office or not. Is that not a good point of compromise for you?
Take note and just go and just reflect on the information I'm giving you. Anytime President passes a vote of confidence in the finance minister, we see a depreciation, a massive depreciation in the city. We see that the exchange rate distortions reaches a different level. If the president doesn't even understand economics and the power of speculation, he should just reflect that when he went to Kumasi and said that Ken Ofori-Atta had performed excellently, within that, the next 2 weeks, the city was on a free fall. That should tell you how markets are responding to the fact that somebody who has failed is touted as an excellent performer. So no one needs to tell President Akufo-Addo that the constant justification for why Ken Ofori-Atta should continue to hold office is the reason for which our economy has reached such a banjast state. Then we are in big crisis. In fact, what I have said is that, look, when President Akufo-Addo describes failure as success, it means that the president himself is a failure.
Well, Bernard, thank you very much for joining us this morning with your thoughts. We're grateful that you could make the time, sir.
It's a delight to have been invited to the program.
Thank you. Let's now bring in Professor Kwabena Safo-Kantanka, who is with Odikro. You monitor the activities of Parliament, but also other engagements of a state. And for you, there seem to be rising calls for better from our government, especially 2 years on. It's been 2 years and a day to the day since we elected this or re-elected this administration into power. Let's start with your assessment over these last 2 years of the performance of the Akufo-Addo administration, Prof.
Well, thank you very much, Benjamin. And let me say good morning to both your listeners and viewers. Thank you very much. I'll look at it from two perspectives. And that is, I'll look at, for example, governance. And when I talk about governance, I'm looking at leadership. And I also look at infrastructure development. I would generally say that in terms of infrastructure development, as one moves around the country, we can see a lot of projects going on. We can see road projects, the rail sector, we can see a lot of improvement. You can see schools, health facilities being put up and being improved and all that. That is one side of it as a government. But having all these things alone would not necessarily be enough, because in politics, people look at a lot more other things. I'll cite Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, who says that politics is always about the future. And so very often, people are more likely to look at what is in there for them in the future. And this is where the issue of leadership becomes so very important. I use governance here in terms of leadership that is providing a kind of direction for others to follow. That's leading a group of people, which also means that if you are leading a group of people, then you must have the ability to listen to them, to inspire confidence in them by mostly listening to their suggestions, their plight, and responding to them as such. And maybe unfortunately, this is where I have a little bit of a problem. You know, for some time now, people, or within the second term that President Akufo-Addo came to power, there have been a lot of calls for him to reshuffle his cabinet, his ministers, and that call hasn't been heeded. And this is where I think we have a problem. I personally have some kind of difficulty. Because you see, when you are leading a group of people and they express concern about the direction you are going, it is usually better to stand back, listen to them, and take action in terms of what they provide. Because usually, you know, in our local parlance, we will say that yes, he who is cutting the road doesn't know that it is crooked. You're cutting a path. Usually, you will not know whether part of the path you're cutting are crooked. It is those who are following you who will be able to determine whether your path is straight or not. So usually, it is better to always listen to those who are working with, those who are leading. And this is where I think the president has had some kind of difficulty. You know, if you have a government and your own MPs rise up against you in taking some decisions, when your 80 MPs, the majority of your own MPs are saying that let it go in a certain direction, and you are not feeding that piece of advice, it creates a lot of difficulty, and it kills confidence in the leadership that is being provided. And this is where we have had challenges. And the previous speaker who just talked about speculation. You know, it led to a lot of speculation in terms of the future for us as a people, the future for us as a country. So it looks like if the president is not listening to his own people, then who else is he going to listen to? I wish that at least when the 80 MPs called for the president to remove the finance minister, to embark on some form of reshuffling, and of course we know that even a few days ago, the former president of the Republic, President Jonathan Akufo, also under his voice, calling for the president to reshuffle his cabinet, saying that, well, just having people following you, that is, trusting them that they will do your work alone is not enough, but also looking at what they are doing and what they can do. And I think this is where the challenge is. So for me, within the second term of the president, the major difficulty has been the president's inability to do the reshuffle. You see, when he reshuffles, it brings in a lot of confidence. When people work in one place for a long time, fatigue can set in. And so when you do the reshuffle, you bring in new energy.
Right.
People come in with
Just to hold you,
a new energy, a new idea.
Prof,
and the followers, the people of Ghana will think that, yes, we want to solve the problem.
Right.
But when there are problems, we have had crisis, and we are trying to respond to the crisis. If we are using the same people under whose term or tenor we have had the crisis, the assumption will normally be that, well, do we really want to resolve or solve the problem, respond to the crisis? And if you bring in new faces, if you reshuffle and bring in new minds,
right,
then the followers psychologically will actually feel that we want to solve the problem. But when we continue to use the same people, it doesn't encourage confidence. It doesn't inspire the kind of confidence we want the people to have in the government. So I think that is the major issue that is affecting the current state of affairs in Ghana. That is the inability of us to have reshuffled our cabinet, reshuffled our ministers to bring in new minds and new people.
Right, Prof.
Prof, we're grateful that you shared these thoughts with us. But just a quick one, if you can give me some 30 seconds on this one. In recent times, we've heard former President Kufuor, who, interestingly, is celebrating his birthday today, also share his thoughts on government size and all of that. Why do you think, very briefly, that Akufo-Addo, our president, has been unwilling to reshuffle or to even sack some of these ministers? Why do you think? In some 30 seconds, if you can.
Well, I won't be able to say categorically why he is unwilling to reduce the size of government. What I can say is that the advice by people like the former president, I wish him a happy birthday, President Kufuor, to advise that, well, maybe we need to have a second look at the size of our government and all that. It's very key. It is very important. What it also means is that, yes, we have had problems. If you look at the debt estate program that is going to be a bad one, it cuts into people's incomes and all that. And usually for people to support that kind of move, they will want to see that leadership is also taking some steps to cut down on expenditure and all that so that it can bring the people on board. And if that kind of call is not heeded, what it means is that, well, people resist. They attempt to restructure the system that will affect them and not leadership. So I think that it's a good call for people to say that we want the president to reduce the size of government. Of course, I think that for political divide, the opposition and the majority leader, of course, even 2 or so days ago, I heard the majority leader talking about a constitutional review to cap the number of ministers in this country. And that's lamenting that in the Fourth Republic, across all governments, we have had problems with the size of government. That should tell you that we all do agree that the size of government has been extremely large over the years, which means that listening to the call to reduce the number of ministers is a good call. And I think I will support that call, especially when we are dealing with a crisis that has led to us going to the IMF, a crisis that has led to what the new term in town, haircut on people's bonds and investments and all that. A call to reduce the size of government so as to reduce the spending on the part of the government is a good one, I think.
Okay. Prof, we're so grateful that you took the time to join us. We're really grateful. Professor Kwabena Safo-Kantanka is with Odikro. So interesting thoughts there that he's been sharing with us, Bernice. But time now for us to bring in some other people as well to share their thoughts.
Definitely. This time we're coming to you from the Market Circle in Takoradi. Samuel Kojo-Brace is there for us. He'll be interacting with some of you on your assessment of the Akufo-Addo-led administration's first 2 years of their second term. Kojo, how's Market Circle?
market cycle is doing so well. Trading activities are still in full force here. But I want to show you something. What you see on your screens now is the construction of the old market circle. That's where I am now. Now, because of this construction, that center where the people were, they have to be relocated to another place. But still, trading activities do happen here. So I'm here to engage some Ghanaians in this part of the country to find out their thoughts of the president's 2 years in government since he assumed office 2 years ago for his second term. Chief, okay, so let me do it this way so that we can really hear him out. Chief, now, social President Akufo-Addo second year, that was the second term. Who na mamori saying?
Oh, Nanado, I born a woman, the ocean millionaire, your woman now. If we are seeing now, baby, I think. Ocean woman, oh, yeah, why you to my Some Nasa, I know one. Baby, I think.
Hey, I said, Uncle Focus, every coast here will be. Baby, I didn't know, okay. Every coast in getting Ghana.
Me shop the normal cost we are saying baby, I Ghana.
Oh, okay. And to forward here 2 years, no, why are they?
Why are they? Never born a pass. We are casting me marking a man in 90%.
Hey, well, I don't know. Okay, all right. Then why are office my woman in
Oh, Sabria, your woman. Send this in a wash one can be a secret. And to be a Jana Flat to Woodham. You call Brenna, your woman, your show my memory will be any time and a son woman is here. Any day we are seeing our COVID, any Ukraine, Russia, and Tokani at the night. Woman were born home.
Okay, so he thinks that the president has done well, given the circumstances pertaining in the global scheme of affairs. He feels the president has done well. He thinks that if he's to mark him out of 100, he would give him 90. Well, so that's his point there. Let me turn to another person here and find out from him his, estimation of government's performance in their second term. Hi, also 2 years, he won't say. Hey, you can say my man is a you. You let this work. You Ghana, you 20 Mahama, former president. And you are going to be not there. I'm never saying I can use it. Dia ko suwa na dia ye dia ma ya ro so bela na o mo dia se isika se no o manage ni dia ko ni ko fu we dia o mo mane na sika se mi suna man ko fu e mu se o man mo ya din yo and the petrol ko soro ade a otu ade be ti dia na atu eno no en kan rent ho and you also only na ministers so if you say on to so ministers so me media we be going to so you all man who say you go back ko go ya you go back ko ya okay, all right then. Yeah, that's it. So there you have it. He also feels that the president has done well for a second term. The only thing he would want him to do is to work on the financial sector. That the issues happening in the financial sector is what is working against him. He again says he believes President John Akufo is the president's elder brother, and so whatever he says, he has to listen. On the reshuffling of ministers, he says, well, if they are all performing, he doesn't have a problem. But like people are calling for, if he has to move one minister from one point to the other, it will help. He feels that must be done.
Right. So that's Samuel Kojo-Brace coming to us from the Market Circle in Takoradi. He's been some people's thoughts on the president's performance, and Benjamin, the first two people we've heard who strongly believe that things would have been worse if it was a different administration, and so they don't have a problem with what we are saying, just that they wish that
the first one to it says NKS created.
Yes, yeah.
Literally, our teeth would have even fallen out. His opinion.
Definitely, definitely. And I know you at home also have an opinion to share with us, and we will definitely take that. We'll take a few messages, and we'll be back with more this day.